Where does Travis Hunter land? And do you really think Shedeur Sanders drops out of the top 10? There are a few teams with really difficult decisions going into this year's draft. We're going to walk through our top 5 that have some difficult choices. And to start with, we're going to jump right into the New York Giants. Now, part of the reason they have some difficult decisions is because they've done some things to their QB room in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. So a lot of people had Shedeur Sanders pegged to that number 3 spot, but I'm going to go ahead and say Abdul Carter is actually going to be the best fit for the New York Giants at number 3 overall. They have a pretty bad pass rush, even though they have what some people would say is an elite defensive line in Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence. It actually didn't perform that well against the pass. They don't have a lot of sacks. They were bottom tier in the league in their pass rush stats. So I think they could benefit a lot from a more pure pass rusher like Abdul Carter. Dexter Lawrence does a great job stopping the run, and they were good against that. But Brian Burns didn't really perform, and Kayvon Thibodeau actually led the team in sacks, which isn't really what you'd expect when you listen to all the names that are on that D-line. So they could really use some help. I think Abdul Carter provides that immediate help. The bend that he has coming around the edge is just absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to say Abdul Carter actually helps the Giants the most, especially considering they went first round with Neighbors last year, and they brought in a guy like Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. They don't need to draft a QB.
I agree that they don't need to draft a QB. However, I don't think it's going to be Carter at that pick because I think Carter's going to go at number 2. So I'm going to go a different route. I think Travis Hunter is going to be that pick for the Giants because, again, we're talking about the New York Giants who need all the help they can get. Travis Hunter already came out and said he doesn't want to play football unless he plays both sides of the ball. So I think that's where you're going to see the most help. Travis Hunter is also one of the best receivers in this class. I'd probably put him top 5 in that category, but obviously everybody looks at his two-way ability, which is why he's going to be a top 5 pick in general. Like McMillan, I think, is a better receiver, but Travis Hunter gives you an overall build to your team being able to play both ways. Again, the Giants need this, and to be able to pair up somebody next to Malik Neighbors, as well as a long ball thrower in Russell Wilson, who I'm assuming is going to be the starting quarterback. I guess we'll see. But again, Russell Wilson could also use all the help he can get. So I would go Travis Hunter at this pick, not Carter.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at contracts, Russell Wilson signed the larger contract, so you would assume he's going to be QB1 compared to Jameis. But it's interesting to hear your opinion because I think that's actually going to go opposite. I think Travis Hunter is a Brown, which makes me really sad as a Steelers fan. But I think he gets drafted by the Browns. And I think the Giants are then left with Abdul Carter. But let's move on to the next team that we think actually has a really difficult decision, and that's the Raiders at pick 6. And the reason the Raiders have some difficult decisions is because they just need a lot on their team. Like the general direction's kind of unclear. But in my eyes, that means you have to just take the number 1 talent at that spot. And I think that's going to be Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty actually just released a big Players Tribune article that ended with the statement, "It's tackle football. I draft the guy that they can't tackle," which I just love. I love his kind of confidence coming into the league. I think he absolutely changes the Raiders' backfield, a backfield that was pretty much dead last in any rushing category you could think of last year. He just completely changes the dynamic back there for them. They build on what they did with Brock Bowers last year, a phenomenal first-round pick, and just really starting to retool a young Raiders offense that's going to be really good for the next couple of years. So I love the idea of Ashton Jeanty going to play under Pete Carroll in Las Vegas.
I love the idea too, but I'm going to go a different route because I don't think they have a number 1 receiver yet. I love Jacoby Myers, but I don't think he's going to be a number 1 option ever on a team. Great number 2. Brock Bowers is already making noise to be at least a top 3 tight end already after his rookie season. You add Geno Smith, which is a little bit confusing with Pete Carroll, which almost makes me feel like they're a win-now team, kind of, sort of. You talked about their direction and where they're going. I think McMillan gives you the best chance. So if you draft him as your number 1 wideout, I can see him being the next CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson type receiver. You've seen what he's done in college. I think he's an immediate transfer over. My only knock on Jeanty, which is not going to be a surprise to you, playing a Big Ten defense in college playoffs, he did not fare too well. So I'm not sure if he's exactly overrated or not. I'm not going to say that until I see it. But I just don't think he's the number 6 pick in the NFL draft this year.
See, I have a different perspective on that too, being a Penn State fan, because I think Ginty actually played really well in that game. I mean, he had one unfortunate fumble kind of near the sideline, being a little careless with the ball, but pretty much every run that Ginty had, there was like two or three broken tackles. Like it took 4 or 5 guys hitting him, and he only gained 4 yards, but he broke 4 tackles. So I think that translates to the pro game really well. So we'll see though. Either way though, I think we're in agreement that the Raiders need a playmaker. They need to go out there and they need to draft whatever best talent they believe is on the board. But let's move on to another kind of peculiar situation in New Orleans. The Saints have an interesting spot picking at 9. The quarterback class is kind of weak. Derek Carr is having some issues that we're not really sure if he's going to be there. But I think they're kind of in the same boat as the Raiders in the point that they need talent. Like they just need whoever's going to be the most talented guy on the board. And I think they're going to pick Tyler Warren. He's almost a clone of Taysom Hill. It's kind of uncanny, actually. And he just immediately improves everything that they want to do on the offensive end. You can play him at slot wide receiver. You can play him at tight end in line. You can put him in the backfield pretty much anywhere. He's a decent blocker. He's just so versatile. And for a Saints team that, again, just needs talent, I think he's a really good fit.
I think it'd be a good fit if it were in a different year, because you're talking about a team that needs talent, and the one spot that definitely needs a talent upgrade is the quarterback position. So I actually have Shedeur Sanders being the pick at number 9. But is it really going to be number 9? I don't think so. I think the Saints are actually going to be a team that trades up to get Shedeur Sanders in worry that either the Browns or Giants will think about it. I think the one team that'll think about it is the Browns. Just because of the Deshaun Watson situation, you get a rookie contract. Joe Flacco's basically vet minimum type contract as well. Even if you have him as a third quarterback on that squad, I think Shedeur Sanders would benefit from being with the Saints more often than the Browns, of course, because Kamara is still there. Hopefully Olave gets healthy. You got a bunch of other options on that team that are going to perform. Taysom Hill still there, like you mentioned. So I don't think you exactly need a Warren quite yet if Hill's still there. So that's the direction I would go if I were the Saints. If I were the Saints, I would actually trade up just to be safe. I'm throwing that out there. I think there's a chance Sanders could drop, but if I'm the Saints, I'm not taking that chance, especially in a weaker division. I'm trying to get up there. I'm trying to get a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, you might even see a team like the Steelers. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Like maybe they make a play to trade up into the top 10 for a guy like Shedeur Sanders this year. So I've seen some talk about that even. The Saints have some options there. A lot depends on what happens with Derek Carr too. That's kind of up in the air. If he's going to play the season or not. Because if he's going to play this season, I don't think QB is as pressing of a need as you think. But if this shoulder thing that he's got going on is like, yeah, he's out for the season, then that's a huge consideration. So let's move on, though. Some two fan favorite teams. We're going to talk about the Cowboys, and we'll talk about the Steelers next, but had to fit these two in. And they do actually have some pretty difficult decisions in this year's draft as well. So I'm going to start with the Cowboys, and I'm actually going to say that I think Teteroa McMillan falls to number 12. I think this is a decently weak receiver class. I don't think that there's going to be many guys that they actually choose to go in the top 10. And I think McMillan is a perfect pairing with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is a fantastic slot guy. He runs crisp routes, lots of catches. McMillan is your pretty stereotypical X receiver. Like he's not going to burn you down the field, but he almost reminds me of a Mike Evans. Like he's great at the point of the catch, like fantastic in jump ball scenarios, super physical, great at beating press. So I think he's a perfect pairing with CeeDee Lamb and can alleviate a lot of pressure in the Cowboys offense and really unlock some different things that they'd be able to do in Dallas.
Again, this year is not the year to make a move like that. As a Cowboys fan, that is not what we need. Anybody who has the Cowboys, and obviously Jerry Jones is unpredictable, we all know that. Anybody who has McMillan, calm down, I don't want to get started. Anyone who has McMillan at this pick, as well as Ginty, who by the way was on a visit and Jerry Jones was holding a championship belt in the visit. Please tell me where you think we're winning a championship, Jerry Jones, if you're not going to make a damn move. Anyway, moving on, I don't think they need a position player. I think they need either interior D-line or they need O-line. They have a bunch of question marks in both of those areas for the last 2 years now. So you can't really run the ball with Ginty if you don't have an O-line. You can't buy the time to throw it down to McMillan if you don't have an O-line. You can't stop the run game if you don't have a D-line. So here's where I'm going to go with these picks. It's important to note that the Cowboys have multiple picks. Round 2, pick 44. Round 3, pick 76. In those 2 picks, I have them going O-line. Because, again, I just marked my words of needs, basically, for the Cowboys. I'm going D-line on this first-round pick, and it's going to be Kenneth Grant. He's the best interior D-lineman in the draft. I think it's without a question the move they should make. I'm not sure if that's the move they're actually going to make, knowing that Jerry Jones takes best available.
Yeah, it would be surprising me to see them get a guy like Kenneth Grant, although he would be a good fit. The Cowboys really struggled to stop the run, and you're looking at a division that's going to run the ball really well, right? You still got Saquon and the Eagles, Jaden Daniels and the Commanders are only going to get better. And who knows what happens with the Giants and what they decide to do with some of their top-tier draft capital this year. So I do think that interior D-line is a pressing need for them. But I think talent in general is still pressing. I mean, after CeeDee Lamb, who do you trust on offense to get the ball to? So that's an interesting dilemma for the Cowboys. But let's move on to the Steelers. This is the last team we're going to talk about with a draft dilemma. And I think the Steelers, just as much as any team, have been talked about as like, what the heck are they going to do with this first-round pick? I mean, are they going to reach for a QB? Do they go interior defensive line? Do they draft another receiver? Do they go running back again? Please no. Please not a running back again. But it's very likely that it could happen. I'm going to say the next best defensive lineman on the board, because I'm assuming Kenneth Grant gets taken before pick 21. I'm going to say they take Derek Harmon, who I think is the next best guy on the board. Ran a sub-5 40-yard dash, 6'5", over 300 pounds, gets in the backfield, super smart football player. A lot of people are saying he's like a Cam Hayward clone in his draft eval processes. So I think with the addition of DK Metcalf, hopefully Aaron Rodgers signs, or you just draft a later round QB, like you go pick up like Will Howard in the 4th or something like that, and kind of kick like a first round QB down the road. And even maybe go into the season with Mason Rudolph starting, just so you tank a little bit more and actually have a season where you're drafting high. But I like them going with a guy like Derek Harmon. I think it fits the general direction that Omar Khan has also gone since he's taken over. It's pretty much been all trenches in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah, but I'm going to go the other direction that he seems to go as well, which is the one that you dislike so much, and I can't wait to bring this to your attention.
Don't say it.
They're going to be picking a running back. I don't expect Ashton GT to be at that pick. I expect him, and I think we both expect GT to be picked in top at least 15. I think the next best running back who's not talked about enough is Amarion Hampton from North Carolina. About 1,600 rush yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry for North Carolina. Again, unheard of, well, not really unheard of, but untalked about compared to a GT who made the college football playoffs, of course. I think he might end up being just as valuable as GT when the careers are over with. And I think the Steelers' running back room is very weak right now. Jaylen Warren, of course, is going to be the guy, if not 1A, 1B with somebody. It's not going to be with Gainwell. And it's not going to be with Patterson. I hate to break it to you. So I think they will go running back at some point because of how weak their running back room is. And they still want to stick with the ground and pound game a little bit, even with the addition of DK Metcalf. So I think you need to make that addition. I'm not saying they won't do it later on. I just think they'll go first round running back. Sorry, Zach.
Yeah. It is painful for me to hear. I mean, I think the only first-round running back I'd actually be okay with is Ashton Jeanty. Like, if he happens to fall there and the Steelers take him, like, cool. That'd be awesome. But for me, with this running back class, it's so deep. Like, I think a guy like Cam Scatabo is going to fall, like, the 3rd round. And if you're looking at, like, someone to pair with Jaylen Warren, who's kind of like lightning, a guy like Cam Scatabo is, like, the thunder to that. So it'll be interesting to see what all of these teams do, though. They all have some predicaments, and it's cool to see this year's draft landscape because it's kind of all over the place. If you look at all these mock drafts, like everybody's got a different opinion. There's not a rhyme or reason. It feels like by now, most of the time, we kind of figure out how the top 10 is going to go. I don't think anybody has really any idea.
There's going to be a lot of shuffling, and I think a lot of trades this year, especially compared to the last couple of years. I think this year is going to be absolute chaos.
Yeah. It'll be a lot of fun, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. Remember to like and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you think these 5 teams should do in their draft and what other teams have really difficult decisions going into this year. And we'll catch you on the next episode.